Good morning, good morning. Happy Easter. Welcome back to the Regina Paul Show. Today I am joined by Kimberlee Plezia, who is the creator of this Fat Girl Life podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so glad to have you here. So, Kimberlee, can you tell us your story? Tell us your story. How did you get to start your podcast? What does it mean to you?
So, this podcast kind of created itself. I spent 8 years as an addict, went through rehab, really found out about myself through that process. Um, for most of my life, between addiction, childhood sexual assault, I had a very distorted view of what love was supposed to be, of what I was really worth and what I deserved. Going through rehab, I was finally able to learn those things at the age of 38. And I started realizing, what my worth really was, that I deserved to be loved. And I finally figured out how to actually love myself. The fact that it took 38 years for me to do that really triggered something within me. And I didn't want to see anybody else go through that much wasted time of not knowing what they were worth or what they deserved out of life or out of love. So that's kind of how this whole thing started. I started it as a blog, just reaching out and sharing my story with others. And then that led me into getting my life coach certification. And then that kind of led to the podcast of this is another way for me to reach people and try to make an impact and help others to not deal with what I dealt with.
Wow, that's a powerful story. So, how has your journey impacted your family?
Really, especially within my marriage, my husband has found out so much more about me than I think he ever realized. We've always been very open, but he has seen me grow with doing this and seeing the changes that I've made. My daughter and I are more open about conversations where so much of this is involved as far as, her dating life and me trying to encourage her of what she truly deserves. And it just creates a much more open conversation within our household. And it's something that honestly I've spent, my life working in 9 to 5. And I've decided, this is something that I want to do full time. And so we've kind of changed our family dynamics to be able to try to support that. I am still working a 9 to 5, but I also do this. So, my husband is so supportive. He picks up the slack around the house so that I can focus on building a business and being able to do this full time.
Wow, nice. That's really, really important to have that support from your family, isn't it?
It is. It is. Without their support, I would not be able to do this.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a lot of work that goes into it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a full-time job. Well, full-time job and a part-time job. So you're doing a lot.
Yeah.
So you said that you had to kind of learn what your self-worth is. So how was that journey for you?
Oh, gut wrenching. That's the easiest way to describe it. I mean, basically, as an adult, I had to kind of teach myself and learn from others all those things that you're supposed to learn as a small child. My mom growing up always, told me how much she loved me and all of that. But then with everything that I went through with my stepfather, through the childhood sexual assault, it really destroyed everything. And so as an adult, trying to really see what I was worth, learn that I deserve to actually be loved properly. Um, it basically was like starting from as a small child, I was very naive in a lot of it, and I searched for that love in so many different places, so many wrong places. And I'm so grateful for the rehab that I went to. I was surrounded by women who wanted nothing more than to love me as I was, not ask me to change or conform to an ideal. They just loved me for me. And that really started triggering that, I'm worth this as I am. I don't have to change into this ideal that the media has propagated, or this social media has even propagated, because we see images on social media constantly. We're bombarded by them. And I started to realize that I was okay how I am. And that really started a process for me of, if I'm okay in this body, I'm okay without makeup, I'm okay just being me, then why isn't everybody else okay just being them? And so it started a ball rolling, if that makes sense.
Oh, it definitely does. There's definitely a way that women are being portrayed that they need to be like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Most
Um,
definitely.
yeah. So, do you have like a self-care routine that you do, like a something that you do every single day?
Not really. Not really. I think probably the thing that is really like my personal moment. I I don't do it daily because I can't afford to do it daily. But my husband and I actually go together and we have a self-care day where we will go and we don't do any work. I make Mondays my day off from everything usually. And so we'll pick a Monday and we will go and get pedicures, and I will go and get my nails done, and it's kind of like a pamper me day. And my husband is like, okay, this is your day. This is relaxation. This is what we're doing. And that's kind of my self care. I know that within that day, I'm not going to have any of those external stressors. Um, as far as a daily thing, with working a 9 to 5 and owning my own business, there isn't a whole lot of time for downtime. So probably the most I do is I always make sure I go to bed on the earlier side. I don't go to sleep, but I lay in my bed before my husband gets home from work, just me and my kitten and TikTok. And that's how I decompress. That's my shut everything off and just watch videos moment.
Okay, sounds nice. What advice would you give yourself, your younger self?
Oh, jeez. If I had to give my younger self a piece of advice, it would be basically just to not take in so much of what is said to me externally. I was bullied, being overweight, there were always comments. And I took it very, very personal. And that's normal. When you hear things that you internalize them. And I think the biggest thing I would tell my younger self is just funnel it out. Just, don't listen to it because you are good as you are.
Yeah, yeah, that's so important. That is so true. Like because like younger kids are so cruel. Oh my God, I look back at now and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's what
Right?
the kids were like back then. Ooh.
And it's so much worse now. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, and most definitely, people always take everything to heart at that young age, where you're still trying to figure out who you are and trying to, yeah, just kind of find your place, you know, and
Yeah.
figure everything out, and the pressures of the hormones when you're going through puberty and everything else, and
Oh,
someone bullying you and telling you different things. it can be quite a confusing time.
It really can, and I mean that I think that's probably why that would be my biggest focus is just to tune it out because when you let other people externally tell you you're not good enough, you start to believe it.
Yeah,
And so that would probably be my biggest message.
yeah, that is so true. The things that we hear the most is what we start to believe, right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. What keeps you motivated?
I have a lot of different motivations. As far as the goal of the podcast and what I do business wise, my biggest motivation is looking in the mirror and seeing where I'm at and wanting other people to be there as well. I like I said earlier, I don't want to see anybody else go through the struggle I went through. And in the community where I live, I see it a lot. I live now where I lived when I was in my addiction. And there are times that I'll be driving down a certain street and I see people that I knew back then, and they're still in that place. And that's gut wrenching for me. And so if I can make an impact in just one person's life, then I've succeeded. And that's what keeps me going as far as that. That motivates me to keep going and keep doing what I'm doing while I'm still working to pay my bills. if
Wow,
Yeah, I'm hoping that makes sense.
oh yes, most definitely. I love how you broke that down. So instead of thinking of like this massive impact, you've actually like broken it right down to if I can make a difference in like one person's life, then this is absolutely worth it, right? Because that's where it starts, is with one person, right? And then
Exactly.
from there you scale. Yeah, yeah. I love how you broke that down. Do you have a vision for yourself or your company, like for the next 5 years?
Well, I'm actually preparing to launch a couple more podcasts. So the my ultimate goal, once I'm able to, start getting the sponsorships and all of that goes with the podcast, is to be able to do this full time. I will not only be continuing the podcast I'm doing right now, I am setting everything up for my second podcast, which will be called The Rope of Hope, which will be stories from others of overcoming and survival, overcoming addiction, overcoming sexual abuse, overcoming domestic violence, overcoming cancer, just any external struggle that you've overcome and surviving it and showing that, giving that hope to others that there is a better tomorrow. I'm also going to be launching a podcast focused on the larger community called Big Beautiful Badasses. And it's because, and as women, we see it a lot of that glass ceiling that we can only go up so far. Well, the plus size community has that same glass ceiling. There are barriers. And I want to showcase, larger men and women who have broken through that glass ceiling and show everybody that it doesn't matter your size. You still can make an impact. You still can succeed. So I want to do that. I want to be able to, speak to large groups. My ultimate dream is to be able to do a large group speaking or be invited to speak to a large group in Las Vegas. I don't know why Las Vegas is the dream, but that's the dream.
Nice. I love it. Do you know what your weakness is?
I've got a couple of them. One, I tend to take on too much. I have a hard time saying no when I'm asked to do things. So setting those boundaries is definitely a weak area for me. I also am getting better at it, but I have a very soft heart. And unfortunately, that's gotten me played a couple times. So I try to really look at things when somebody, puts an ask on Facebook that they need money or whatever. I really have to stop myself and, put that boundary down that I'm not going to do it, for whatever reason. And there are plenty of people that I do help, but there are times that it's like, I can't do it. And so
Yeah.
it does come down to those boundaries. That's my biggest weakness is, being able to set those boundaries and stand firm on them.
Yeah, so important. Yeah, for sure. And what is your strength?
I think my biggest strength is the fact that I've survived. I've survived sexual assault. I've survived domestic abuse. I've survived drugs in so many different situations where I could have just given up. I've persevered and I've survived it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sure glad that you did because it's so nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any regrets?
Oh, I think we all have regrets. I I regret that it took me this long to get to this place in my life. I I regret that I went through two very bad marriages, the second one especially, before I finally realized what I deserved. Um, but even though I have them as regrets, I wouldn't change it because those things made me who I am.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah. What scares you?
I always have the innate fear of failure. Um, that this isn't going to, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. I'm not going to be able to make the impact I want to make. Um, but then I'll be honest, there's also that fear that this is going to become bigger than I can handle.
Mm,
And I look at, I've been doing a business class and we've talked about having investors in our business. And, I have fought that idea for the longest time of I don't want to have, an investor come in and own part of this because this is my baby.
yeah.
So I am afraid of failing, but I'm also, I think, a little bit afraid of this blowing up and being bigger than I can handle and having to bring on other people, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for sure. It sure does. Yeah, it's change, right?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, actually. Change. Change is scary for me. If it's outside of my control, I'm a little scared of it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can relate to that. Yeah, that's for sure. When is the last time you laughed so hard that your tummy hurt?
Honestly, just a couple days ago, my husband and I had traveled down to Dallas, Texas, and Houston, Mississippi, for some family stuff, and we were on our way back. And as a child, I had gone down to Amarillo, Texas, and did this whole thing. Like, I forced my family to go to the Cadillac Ranch. And
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever been to Cadillac Ranch.
No.
It is not what I thought it was going to be. And so when we were, making the plans to do this trip, I was joking with my husband. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to go to Cadillac Ranch because he'd heard the stories of that trip. And so we got there and I just lost it. I completely lost it. Like, I was laughing so hard I could not breathe for a moment just because in that moment with my husband, with everything that we were dealing with some family stuff, just having that moment of laughter was what I needed, but it was enough to take my breath away.
Okay, awesome. So what is this Cadillac Ranch? Like what? I don't even know anything about
So,
it.
Cadillac Ranch is in Amarillo, Texas, and it's literally like 8 Cadillacs that are all nose down in the dirt. That's all it is.
So when you got there, is that what you saw?
And so the first time I went there as a child, I didn't know what Cadillac Ranch was. So I knew there were Cadillacs there. I was like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. We're gonna see all these old Cadillacs. This is gonna be awesome. And like, I forced my entire family to go. And we got there, and my mother just was so upset with me. And she was like, Kimberlee, and you are going to get out of this car. You're going to go look at every single one of them. And so my husband had heard this story many times. And so
Yeah.
when we got there, we pulled up, and he just looked at me. He's like, "You're serious?" And I lost it because all I could see was these 8 Cadillacs that were nose down in the dirt. I couldn't even get out of the car. I was laughing so hard just to have that moment of stupidity.
That's awesome. Oh,
But everybody should go. I mean, they're
what advice has someone? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're planning a road trip next year, so I'm gonna see if we can stop by there.
go to the gift shop because there they have 3 really good Cadillacs. The ones that are out on the ranch, they now have it to where like you can spray paint them. You can put your name on them or whatever. But they've got 3 really old restored Cadillacs at the gift shop.
Okay, cool. Right on. What advice has someone from your family given you that has really helped you through life, through your struggles?
Um, it was actually from my mother, and I went as far as I have the words tattooed on the back of my neck. When I went into rehab, she gave me her Bible, and apparently she had written a note in there. I did not see that note until 2 years after my mother passed away.
Oh,
And it said, remember who you are and where you came from.
yeah, yeah, that's powerful. We all need to sometimes just take a step back and remember, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I'm finding those words from my mom, after she had passed away was just incredible. And knowing that I had owned that Bible for 6 years and had not seen those words, that's honestly why I tattooed it on. I don't ever want to forget that message.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. What lesson have you learned along the way?
There's a lot. I've learned a lot of lessons, but I think the biggest one that I've learned, honestly, came through this pandemic. You know, so many businesses have had to shut down because of this. I was lucky with starting a brand new business during the COVID pandemic. I had to learn right then and there how to adapt. Um, so I offer services that can be done in person or online. We're constantly going to be faced with different things that come at us, and it's how we choose to respond. So we can either let it break us or we can adapt. And that has probably been the biggest lesson that I've learned.
Okay. Are you living a meaningful life?
I think so now. I haven't always. And like I said, I spent 8 years as an addict. There is no meaning in that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I am. I have a purpose. I have a reason to get up every day. I have a family that I adore, and that gives meaning.
What do you want your final words to be when you leave Earth?
I love you to every person that I know that is part of my life. I want them to know that I love them.
What is one thing that you cannot live without?
Um, there's a lot. On a daily basis, my Dutch Bros. I am a coffee addict. I freely do admit that. But I think in a bigger picture sense, I I don't think that I could live without my family. My family has been my biggest cheerleaders through the worst times, through the best times. My family's been the one that's been there, and so I don't think I could live without them.
Okay. What scares you?
We kind of talked about this earlier. The thing that scares me the most is change.
Yeah.
Things being out of my control. I have issues with power. Um, Maybe power is not the word, but I definitely control issues. I like to have control in a situation. I like to know what's coming. I am a total list person. Like, even for Thanksgiving, I'm already in my head mentally preparing for something that is 6 months down the road. But that's just who I am. I have to have that control over things and know what's going to be happening. So when I am in a situation where I have no control whatsoever, I don't know the outcome, I don't know the process, that is scary.
Mm, yeah. Change is definitely one thing that a lot of people are afraid of, right? And the thing is, if the pain of staying the same is not big enough, then people are just won't change. Like you can never change someone; it has to come from within. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. What was the key driving factor for you to becoming an entrepreneur?
Honestly, the fact that I was sick of lining somebody else's pockets. I have gotten to a point where I feel like if I am going to put in my blood, sweat, and tears, then I am going to be the one that benefits financially from it. Um, I love the job that I do for a 9 to 5. I've been there for 6 years, but I'm really sick of making somebody else rich while I get an hourly wage. And again, it comes down to control. I'm going to control my future, and I'm going. My husband is actually in the process of training to come on to the company with me. We want to do this together and be able to travel and live our lives and enjoy our lives. You spend so much time as a woman, as a parent, even as an adult,
Mm,
doing for others.
yeah.
And you put off being able to do for yourself, being able to really enjoy things in your moment. You enjoy things as a parent for your children. You enjoy things as a child for your parents. But when does it come to that point where you're enjoying it for yourself? And I don't want to keep putting that off. So I want to do it now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, one of the things that I think has really opened up a lot of people's eyes throughout this pandemic is how actually truly unreliable their jobs are, because there's this fake I'm losing the word here. There's this fake secureness, I guess, with the job when we're working for someone, that we feel like, oh, well, we're secure. This company has been around, I don't know for how many years, but I have a job, I have a steady paycheck coming. And the thing is, there is someone there that is making decisions every single day that could affect you. And with this pandemic, it has really shown people that they're not in control of that steady paycheck coming in. Someone else can decide that for them very, very quickly. So what I've
Exactly.
noticed is a lot of people are now going, hey, well, oh my God, like we gotta do something else. And different businesses, either online, they're adapting to the new way of being now, or they're opening up a or just a store or a different type of service, a physical service, right?
Exactly. I think this pandemic has shown everybody job security does not exist. Um,
Yeah.
and my husband and I were very lucky. We have worked this whole time. Through all of this, my job was not affected in any way, shape, or form. My husband did lose some hours, but he still worked. We were lucky enough to still be able to bring in two paychecks into our home. I personally have a lot of friends who were not that lucky. And so I think definitely this pandemic has taught us that we can't rely on somebody else for our income. And that's been a huge driving force of, I wanted to do something that was going to be meaningful, that was going to make an impact. But honestly, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you also have to think about, is this going to financially sustain me?
Yeah.
You have to think about that. That has to be part of the process. And I feel like I'm really doing something that is going to do that. I have found, I focus on an area that, unfortunately, we kind of talked about it earlier. People are cruel sometimes, and we are hearing things from the media, from everywhere, TV, internet, etc. We're bombarded with these images that unfortunately do promote that message that some people just aren't enough.
Yeah.
And as long as the media is promoting those images, I want to be here to give a different view and show
Yeah.
show everybody that they are enough. So, I'm trying to tackle areas that unfortunately are going to be around for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. How did you come up with the name for your podcast?
So that actually started as the name of my blog. Um, one of the first articles I wrote for my blog was about trying on a swimsuit. And as a woman, that is scary in and of itself. As a fat woman, it's even scarier. And I was like, I'm fat. I totally embrace that. This is my life, and this is what I'm going to share. And that's kind of how the name came to be. It was kind of meant as a joke, but I've embraced it of this is my life, and so I'm opening up every part of my business. I open up different areas of my life, be it, my experiences with, knowing my worth, loving myself as I am, be it experiences that I share through my blog of trying on swimsuits or finding a lump in my breasts. Um, with the other podcasts that I'm going to be launching, be it that I am a big person that is hitting that ceiling, that is, breaking through, that I have survived, the things I've survived in life. Every part of those are part of this fat girl life. I am this fat girl.
I like how you just kind of took that power away. You kind of are owning it, right? So you've taken that power away from everyone else that may have that opinion. And you're like, no, I am embracing this. This is me. I absolutely love that.
100%. I'm to the point of there's clothing brands that I follow that, one of them has FAT, fine and thick. I've really embraced that message. And for so long, even the term fat has been a negative thing. And that's bogus. I'm trying to use words because I don't want to, cuss or anything. But it's ridiculous. It is a word. So why not embrace it? It doesn't define me. It doesn't demean me. It just describes the fact that I've got a little bit more flesh and all that than other women do. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing.
Exactly. Yeah. I love how you did that. It's awesome. It's awesome. What has your most satisfying moment been in your business?
Most actually happened the other night. I had a client who told me that in the months that they've been working with me, they feel like they have gained more than 6 years of therapy.
Wow. Oh, I think we just lost you there. Oh, okay.
So that was probably one of my biggest internal celebrations.
Awesome. Yeah. I love how we can see the clients transform, right? When people come to a life coach, they're looking for a change. They're ready.
Exactly.
What has your greatest inspiration been?
I think my greatest inspiration, and this is kind of a negative to a positive, watching everything that happened over the summer with the protests and everything from George Floyd and all of that really kind of spurred me on of there's got to be something better. There's got to be a better world. And that some of those moments really inspired me to really want to make a change. And so that's my biggest inspiration, is unfortunately so much of the negative that inspires me to want to do something.
Okay, so you want to be the change that you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
That's awesome. What is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
There's a couple. One that I do have that control. I set the pace. I set the standard. If I like it, I can keep doing it. If I don't like it, I don't have to do it. So having that control over things is huge for me. But I think one of my other favorite aspects of being an entrepreneur is knowing that I'm going to be able to be there for my family. There have been so many moments that I wasn't able to be there because I had to work. As an entrepreneur, especially with the kind of business that I have, I can change my hours. I can do it on the road. Last week I had you on my show remotely from Dallas, Texas. I live in Colorado Springs. I can pack up all of my equipment and put it in my car and go anywhere and still do my job. not a lot of people can say that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Hmm. If you were to write a book, what would you name it?
Probably, honestly, this fat girl life. I mean, that's who I am. Every part of, every aspect of my life has led up to this, and it's all been part of this life. So that's
Hmm.
probably what I would call it.
Okay. Um, what is your favorite quote?
My favorite quote. Oh, wow. Honestly, one of my favorite quotes is from the movie The Help. Um, and it is, you is kind, you is smart, you is important.
Powerful. And then I have one last question for you before we jump off here.
Okay.
Oh, looks like I'm loading. Oh, okay, here we go. Okay, what would you do in the event of a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, my word. I would be very dependent on my husband. I I don't like use guns. I don't do any of that. I can camp, I could survive, but I would be so dependent on my husband to protect me from that. It's just not even funny. So I would be that person hiding behind my husband.
I think a lot of women would.
He's watched The Walking Dead. He does all that. He's prepared for that. That's why I got married.
Yeah, yeah. I love those shows. um, do you have a gift or something that you would like to share with the audience today?
Yes, I do. I actually just created it. I have a free download of a program that I have created called the Letters to Myself project. It is a 5-day journaling project where you write a letter to yourself each day. And I do have that as a digital download. So if anybody is interested in receiving that, they could send me a private message and I will gladly give them that digital download.
Okay, awesome. That sounds really interesting. Awesome. Right on. Well, it has been such a pleasure having you on here, Kimberlee. You have had a fabulous journey to be where you are today, and I wish you all the luck in all your other podcasts that you are looking to create, and a lot of success.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed being on the show. I've enjoyed, getting to know you actually, through this process. You've actually inspired me in a lot of ways with the stuff that you do online. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Kimberlee. It means a lot. Thank you. Well,
Of
you guys,
course.
this is it. Have a fabulous Easter, and I will see you guys back here next week, Sunday. Ciao.
Bye.